Okay, every time I do this, it's like I jump through hoops to make sure I've done all the things I'm supposed to do. And I'm sure I left something out because I always do. But anyway, welcome to the shop. It's Friday. It's a little dreary outside. Today is, what is it, April 9th? So, um, a lot of things happened yesterday. I mean, not a lot of things. I did a lot of work in the shop yesterday, but it was mostly just like routine grunt busy work that needed to be done, like sanding and things like that. A little bit of staining, some lacquer spray stuff went on. I did some finish spraying, and did just a lot of those things that, you know, I'll show you bits and pieces of those, but to watch the whole thing can be kind of boring for you. So I take care of those things on the off stream days. But I need to keep progress moving, so I don't like just relegate my projects to just doing on stream because, well, that would stretch out the timeline immensely, and I don't really want to do that. I want to keep things moving. So I went ahead and did some of those things. For example, all of the bases right here, these are all now sanded to 150 grit, and I did all of them. I also rounded over all of the handles. Got a little hand sanding to round them over. Today we are going to do my 1/8 inch round over on all the flat edges here. I just find that it makes them really nice to touch. There's no sharp, like right now, it's a very sharp edge. And I like them to be smoother than that. So what I generally do for these things is give them a round over. And I have a really nice 1/8 inch round over bit that I love to use. And that just basically goes around the perimeter of the bottom. And usually the outside of the perimeter of the top, depending on the base, I will also do an interior route, like I said, depending on what the base is. I'm still deciding on this one because this one does not have a pocket that runs all the way around, or it has this little thing, which is different. Let me show you, just so you know what I'm talking about. So here's a standard base with a side compartment, okay? And it has a lid. This is separated from this by a middle divider. And so generally what I would do is run that round over in here on the interior, but then I leave this side alone because it has a lid that fits flush in there. This one is built a little differently in that it does not have a middle divider. You can see there's no divider in there. It's just basically the corner stops and then this little lid, and it's not a compartment as much as it is a bed extension. For those who have been following, this is what I call my oops. This is my oops box because I got some dimensions wrong on this, but it was still good enough that I could use it. But I had to alter my plans a little bit, so it's a little different than these. But this is just a bed extension now. So I might do an interior route on this, or I might just hand sand this to just smooth out this edge right here. It's a little sharp. So I might smooth this one out by hand. I want this to be a crisp line though right here where this lid fits. I don't want to round that because then it would look weird, because then it would have a round and then the thing here. So it would be weird to have that lid meet that rounded edge. I like that to be nice and flat, but it would be nice to have this. So I might just break this edge just a little bit, just get to, when I do the finish sanding on these, I might just break that edge a little bit right around here. All the other ones, the larger ones that you saw, those will all get an interior route with the round over bit. It's really simple to do. I just put it down on the table and run it around the perimeter, and it's done. I usually save that step for right before my last finish sand, and I will finish sand these to 220. I will hand sand them, not with that one, probably with this one. I think that's probably 220 on there. So I will finish sand them with this, with some 220, and all I'm gonna do, once this is done, is I'm gonna take this pad and I'm just gonna give it a few strokes along the grain just to get some, any little pigtails or whatever that might be left, any little swirls or anything in there, just kind of take those last little scratches out. These are still really dusty. But take those last final little scratches out to get this to 220 before we go into the last stage of, well, finishing them, which is staining, and then after that I put the lacquer on. And that's probably my least favorite part of all these things, and it takes up a lot of time. Like the finishing, the staining's not too bad. The stain I use, I only do one coat. It does a really good job of a one coat finish, but it's just that applying it everywhere and then wiping it all off, and it just takes time. So to give you an example, this is a base that I actually stained yesterday, and it's actually a very, okay, the bottom is not done because this was not one that I made. This was one that my wife had originally before I started making bases. She had purchased this from a gentleman who sadly has since passed away, but he made these little bases, and this is actually what I originally designed my base to look like and to be similar to. He did a really nice job on these things. One of the big differences on his, if you can see this, is that, let me see if I got number 4 on here. Yeah. So his bottoms on his are actually internally captured. There's a route that goes through the inside of each of these pieces, and you can see right here where his actually sits underneath that little spot there. So there is no rabbit bit route around the interior of this. That's how he did his, as opposed to mine, which are, let me grab a normal one here. So mine have no, if I can do side by side here a little bit. So you can see mine actually have the bottom is just a rabbit around here, and then I glue that in. So his is captured within the sidewall. And I originally was going to do it that way. And you can see there's, these are fairly similar. Let me side by side these a little bit here. So these are fairly similar. Size-wise, mine's a little longer. So I make mine a little longer because I like my storage. For me, this is just a little small to get your hand into. And so I make mine with the storage compartment a little larger, which people seem to enjoy that. They like being able to stick their whole hand in here if you've got big hands like I do. So my storage compartment, the opening of it is about, 3 7/8. His opening is 2 7/8. So you get a whole extra inch of opening on mine. Mine has a lid, his did not. He has really cool decorative corners on his. I would love to do this. I don't know how he actually did these things, but if you look at the corners, he's got these great little rounded pieces that just sit on top of his corners. And I don't know if you can see those or not, but they're really nice little features there. I've done that before, and it is such a pain. I would like to find a faster way to do that, perhaps with my CNC machine, to cut a lot of these things out. I don't know how he did this. He did a beautiful job, and what he has to do, though, because he's doing that, is I think the opening of his is a little longer than mine. See, his is 15, mine's 14 3/4. So mine is 1/4 of an inch shorter, but his are longer because he has these pieces here, which means that the edges of the machine fit in front of those pieces, and therefore his needed to be a little longer. And the other thing is that he has to use a much larger triangular block in the corner to be able to fit in the corner and then still provide a ledge for that machine to sit on with these decorative corners. because I use slightly smaller, I can get away with using smaller corners, which means it's easier for me to find thick wood to make these with. I don't need to go like 1.25 inch thick wood to make those triangular blocks. I can get away with like a 7/8 or whatever and still make my corners, and they're still fully functional. If I added those little decorations, it really takes away a lot of that corner bracket, and you have to have a bigger piece of wood underneath. Anyway, my wife had this for ages, and she's like, whenever you get around to staining, could you just slap some stain? This is beautiful wood. It's cherry, which is my favorite. So when that's why I started working with this one. God, I'm all dusty and now because I touch these, every time I touch these bases, they're covered in dust. And now I'm getting dust all over this. But anyway, she'd asked me repeatedly if I could slap some stain on this. I mean, it's rough and it's actually been abused, and she's taken it to gatherings and such, and we've modified it to fit other machines at times. And so I like, it sits on the bottom, and as long as this part looks good, I didn't really care if the bottom of this got stained. That was just more work than I wanted to do. Plus, she's already got felt feet on the bottom here, and I didn't want to have to take the felt feet off and then do new ones. I also had modified these back in my experimental days when I was figuring this stuff up, figuring it out, and put handholds in here. The problem is that my handholds went deep, so it actually runs into the plywood right in here. The plywood bottom actually gets exposed because it was a little deep. So I had to make a couple changes. But anyway, it turned out really nice. It's really pretty. I will put some lacquer on this thing, and it will look grand with her machine in there. It's so much better because it was just raw wood, and it was getting very dark. I think I talked about before that cherry over time gets really dark. It oxidizes and becomes this really kind of a caramel color. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like a caramel. So you go from this color to like a darker caramel color. And it looks really cool. I love the way it ages. And then, like I said, my preferred thing is like a cherry oil over top of it, which comes very close to that caramel color. So you can take this to that kind of color variance. But my stain stuff turns out dark because that's kind of traditional, this color. It's traditional. And that's what people like. They sell better that way. So who am I to argue with what sells, right? All right, so I did slap some stain on there. I did some other finishing as well. Let me set this aside. I also finished all of the staining on the pieces for the toy sewing machine. Keep getting dust and dirt all over everything. Very dusty in here today. I did a lot of sanding. I tried to clean up as best I could, but I need to hit the vacuum with the brush on it and just kind of really give this a clean. But I figure I got some more hand sanding to do, so I might as well just go ahead and leave it. I did hit the floor with the vacuum, but I need to do more sanding, so it's just going to get a little dirtier before it gets clean. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so I did the finishing on this. I've actually lacquered all of these. I hit this with some poly. It's like a satin poly on these drawers. I did not like it. It was, first of all, it stinks to high heaven. It's this stuff right here, this Minwax fast drying polyurethane, clear satin. Blech! Do not like that at all. It is horrid. And I didn't like the feel of it. It felt, I mean, these were smooth, but it had this feel like it was just unfinished. It did not feel good at all. And I like this is an oil finish on here, and I just really like the way that an oil finish feels. And so when I put a top coat on of like lacquer, I like it to feel like it's an oiled finish. I don't want it to feel glossy, and I don't want it to feel kind of unfinished like that satin did. So I basically just hit these with some 400 grit. I think I had a sanding pad right here. I just put some 400 grit on here, and I just hit that with some 400, and then I just shot them with some lacquer, and I was much happier with the way they turned out. Now they've got a little bit of gloss, I mean, not a gloss, but a little bit of a sheen to them now, which is what I like. We'll call it a sheen, right? call it a little Martin Sheen on here, but I like that, and it feels good. It just feels like an oiled finish. It feels like natural wood, and I just, you know, like this. It's just got an oiled finish on it. It's boiled linseed oil, and it just feels good in the hand. I'm weird that way, but it's a tactile thing with me. So anyway, finished this weekend, sprayed all of the parts, and we're actually going to, today, we will put the handles in here. I have little drawer pulls, handles, they're pulls, little drawer pulls. So we will go over to the drill press and make some nice little holes in here. We'll attach the pulls to the fronts, and then we will tack these, which are the slides for these drawers. So these drawers, these parts right here actually get tacked up to the underside of the tabletop, and that way your little drawers can just slide on, slide off. So we will tack these on, and then we will assemble the legs. I'm going to clean this a little bit. This piece right here, this is the flywheel for the machine. It's a tiny little flywheel. Usually on sewing machines, if you've ever seen a treadle machine, the flywheel is anywhere from like this big to this big. I mean, they can get huge. Industrial machines had really big ones. But anyway, we're going to do that, and we will assemble the table. And yeah, so we've got that going on. So three things to do today. 1, 2, 3, 2 things. Well, I'm going to route the edges on those. We're going to do some finish sanding. I'm going to put the table together. Maybe I'll put the table together first. What do you think? Should we do the table first? Sounds good. Before we get into that though, I saw an article this weekend I thought I was going to share with you. I thought I would share it with you. I actually posted it over on my Facebook JR's Woodshop page. So if you watched through there, you might have seen the link for that. I'm just checking. No. Okay, everybody's good. And it was for a tool. It was for a hand plane, and I was like, wow, that's really pretty. And then you see the price of this thing, and I'm like, that's really pretty. Pretty damn expensive. Anyway, so I thought I would share that with you and just kind of like, so I'm gonna switch over to that page real quick. Let's see if this will work. Oh, look at that. Technology is a wonderful thing. I have my little wireless mouse here. This is the Lazarus, I have to read it on my screen, so pardon me, I'm not looking at you. The Lazarus Bevel Up Smoothing Plane. I think you know, it's all brass. The handle here, the handles are made of, I want to say Gabon ebony. We'll just call them ebony. It's a specific type of ebony. They are French polished. Look at that thing. That is gorgeous, right? I mean, look, that is a beautiful hand plane. It's pretty amazing, right? This is a smoothing plane. It's a bevel up smoothing plane. It's a little, which means it's shorter. Like if you've seen my, I have my, where's my 62.5 right here. So this is a bevel up plane as well, but this one is longer. So this is I don't know, how long is this thing? This thing is 14 inches long. This thing, I think, and it's hard for me to read descriptions here, but it's probably 9 inches long, something like that. Most smoothing planes are around 9 inches long. They are made to ride any of the waves in the wood or whatever and smooth things out, as opposed to a longer plane which is made to flatten things. So usually they're shorter planes. But look at the handle on that thing. That is just, oh my Lord, that's gorgeous. I mean, from every angle, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. What's not beautiful, and I get it, but what's not beautiful is the price. This is an $1,800 hand plane. Now, people spend $1,800 on tools all the time. I mean, not all the time, but they do. They spend $1,800 on tools. If I wanted to buy a saw-stop table saw with, you know, the anti-finger chopping off technology and everything else, I'd be spending at least $1,800. If I wanted to replace my jointer with the jointer planer that I'm looking at from Grizzly, well, that's $2,500. So it's not crazy to think. I mean, my CNC machine back here, that was $1,500. It's less than that. By the way, these lawn care people back here are driving me crazy. Go away. They're usually on Thursdays. I'm not sure why they're here on Friday. Anyway, so I understand spending $1,800 on a tool, but typically it is not a hand tool that you're spending 1,800 bucks on. In comparison, this is a Veritas small bevel up smoothing plane. So basically the exact same thing as the Lazarus, same technology. It's beveled up, it's a smoothing plane. This is a top of the line plane. I mean, most people, when you say name a top of the line plane, they're going to go with Veritas as right up there at the pinnacle, right? $253. Now I look at that and go, it's a lot of money for a hand plane. But 253 bucks is this one. I mean, I just don't understand if this Lazarus is that much better than this? I mean, what is this? This one's less than 300, right? Is this one $1,500 better? I mean, what could make that $1,500 better than what's considered top of the line Veritas plane? I don't know. It's. I mean, I put the question out to you all. If you want to, comment up on that, is that, can you see where that kind of thing? I mean, if you're one of these guys, if you're like what we would in the guitar world, we call them cork sniffers, where you're like, oh, I can only have the best of the best of the best, right? It's like I would never spend $500 on a guitar when I could get a guitar that is, this much better for $5,000. There's what we call a point of diminishing returns in guitars, where you spend X amount of money, like $500, and you get a guitar. As you start increasing the amount of money you spend, the quality level gets less and less and less, to the point where a $5,000 guitar and a $2,500 guitar, you'll find almost no difference in feel, playability, whatever. It's very, the rate of return for that extra money is very small, as opposed to at the bottom, where if you spend $100 and then you spend $500, the amount of quality upgrade is huge. But as you get to that top peak, the amount of quality that you get back is very small. It's, the point of diminishing returns. Same thing with this tool. I mean, can you imagine this thing? I would like to just set it on the wood and have it cut the wood itself and make it like butter for 1,800 bucks. Because honestly, for $1,500 less, I'm getting a top line. So anyway, I mean, I don't want. I'm not saying if you bought that tool that you're, what's wrong with you? You're stupid. I'm not saying that. I would just like to know what makes that tool better than, say, a Veritas. Now I understand there's fit and finish and everything else. It's like you can buy a S-Series Mercedes, for $90,000 or whatever, and it's going to get you to the grocery store the same as a Yugo. It's going to be a nicer ride. It looks a lot better, but its whole purpose is to get you from A to B. The whole purpose of this is to smooth the wood. Does that other one do a better job of smoothing the wood? For $1,500, you would hope maybe it would, but anyway, I don't know. I put that out there to you. I just wanted to share that with you. I saw that and I was just like, that is a beautiful tool. I'm sure it feels amazing in the hand. That's all French polish. Those shiny areas there, that wood is French polish. French polishing, I don't know if you've ever seen French polishing. It's basically a method of applying shellac, but thin layers that are just like buffed and burnished. So you're applying the shellac and you do it like coat after coat after coat after coat. And each one gets a little thinner and a little more burnished and polished until it's just this rock hard, beautiful, deep, shiny, amazing finish. French polish basically was, I can't even remember. I don't want to throw out a date, but basically if you look at furniture from several hundred years ago that came from Europe, a lot of that stuff was French polish. That's how they achieved a beautiful polished finish a rock hard polished finish that protected the wood and was beautiful, nice to touch and everything else. It's a time consuming process. And if you don't believe me, go look up a French polishing YouTube video. There's videos out there to show you how to do it. Because like I said, it's just shellac, and I think you're doing a mixture of shellac and some alcohol, denatured alcohol, in different different ratios, and you're just going over and over and over it. So it's not a complicated process, but it's very time consuming. That's what they did on these. So obviously there's a lot of handwork that goes into the tooling and stuff on this. And if I was making a hand plane and it came out that beautiful, I'd be like, yes, I'm charging $1,800. Do you know how long it took me to make this? My time is worth money. It is worth money. $1,800 worth? I don't know. That's kind of goes to a question that a lot of woodworkers get. Let me go back to just standard cam now. A lot of woodworkers, when they're talking about pricing their projects, and they need to know, well, how much should I charge for this? I've had conversations with my woodworker buddies about this. Is how much do you charge for a product? And there's the easy part to figuring out, which is the materials, right? Well, how much did you spend on wood and glue and blah, blah, blah. That's the easy part. The hard part is, how long did it take you to make it, and what's your time worth? That really is the bottom line. And this friend of mine had a relationship with somebody who owned a shop down in Fredericksburg, and the shop in Fredericksburg sold pieces on commission, beautiful handmade wooden, whatevers. And he had a guy come in and he's like, all right, well, this is really a beautiful piece of thing or whatever, and what do you want to sell it for? And the guy's like, $5,000. It was like maybe like a handmade chest or something like that. It was gorgeous and everything else. But the guy's like, dude, you're never going to sell this for $5,000. Well, I've got 300 hours of handwork and stuff in this. And it's like, that's nice, but nobody's going to pay that, because what you value your time for and what somebody else values it at are completely different. You have to maintain objectivity in what somebody's willing to pay. And people have a tendency to overvalue their time, which is why I make boxes and batches. I do all of these batches. I don't just make one base and then sell it. I make 5 bases or 10 bases and sell them, because it maximizes my time, and therefore I'm getting more return and value. So I guess that guy, circle back around, I guess the guy or the company that makes the tools, they assess the time and effort it takes to put into that and the materials as worth the price of the tool itself. Me, I'm like, the Veritas probably has more hand machining and things like that, but it's still a top of the line tool. And I would definitely go and get something like that. The tool that I pulled out here a minute ago, this is, it's my favorite plane. It's my Wood River, it's my 62, and it's a bevel up plane. And this tool right here is not cheap. I mean, this is a $200 tool. I could have gotten the Veritas version of this, which was a $300 tool. To me, there wasn't that much more benefit from this. It had all the features I wanted, and it was very similar. And I'm like, okay, that's just a little bit more than I would spend. Now, if I was going to get a smoothing plane, I would buy that Veritas, hands down. That's, I would get that. So I look at it in terms of, functionality, quality of the tool, and benefit to me for the dollars I spend. But if you're one of those people who's like, I've got the money, I want the best of the best, and that appears to be, what that would be, by all means, go buy that tool, because it is beautiful. It is a beautiful hand tool, and I would love to know how it cuts. I'm sure it cuts like butter. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. I had that kind of dialed up, and I wanted to share that with everybody. But so what are we doing? We are going to do, let's start with these drawers right here. This thing is, hang on a second, I got to move that out of the way a little bit. It is just poking me something fierce. All right, we're going to start with these, and we're going to put a, let me get my little foxtail here. Just give a little little sweep here, see if I can get a little of that dust out. Quit getting it on this thing. So we need to put the drawer pulls on these, which means I have one in here. I actually marked one with the screw that I think is the appropriate screw to use for this. Let me find this one right here. Yeah, so I already got this one. Let me cut over to the close cam here. So here's the pull, and you'll see there's a screw already inserted in the back of it. This is the one that I want to use. There's actually three different sizes in here, which was really nice. I like that. That was a nice touch. But what I need to do now is figure out, okay, well, how large of a hole do I need to accommodate for this screw? And let me reach up here and grab, if I can find it. Looking for my calipers in here. I do not see them. I'd really like to find my calipers. I was going to buy some new calipers this week, but I never got around to getting to the Home Depot. Okay, I'm just going to walk around my shop for a second here. Don't mind me while I'm... Oh, here they are. I knew I had them out here somewhere. Anyway, let me grab my drill bits. Okay, so I got some drill bits. This is I don't know, you find these at Home Depot. It's just a DeWalt drill bit set. It's nothing fancy. It's just drill bits. They're not bad. They kind of, instead of a sharp point, they've got a tapered point. And it's not a brad point. You know, pluses and minuses to that. Anyway, what I want to do is I want to find out how thick that screw is so I can figure out what size to use for a drill bit. So I'm just going to use my caliper here and just find out how large is that. So that is 0.14 inches. And if I go to my bits here and find out who is the closest to that, thinking that it's either 3/16 or 5/32. Let's look at 3/16, shall we? 3/16 is 0.17, and 5/32 is 0.14. So 0.14 is the exact size of this thread. I don't know if that's going to be too tight, though. I mean, if it's the exact same size, it might be too tight. One thing I could do before we get doing that is I could actually just go and do a test. I've got a little scrap piece of wood. This is about the same thickness as this, so I could just put a hole in here. Let's find out. I think I have, let's see, this camera is, oh, it's pointing at it, but it's not plugged in. So hang on, let me, I forgot to plug the HDMI cable into that one. So, like I said, I always forget something. It's just that way. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. And I'm going to shove my vacuum out of the way here so I can get this. Turn the little light on. I'm going to chuck this up. Also, I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. Small shop. All right. Get this chucked up nice and even in here. A little wobbly. There we go. Yeah, this is my like $125 12-speed heavy-duty drill machine. Craigslist buy, which I can't change the speed on because the lever to open this is broken, or the lever that actually loosens the pulleys broke, and I'd have to take the whole thing off to get in there, and I've just never gotten around to it, so it just runs at one speed. But it's okay, it works. It is useful enough for me. Let me raise the table up. There's no sense in wasting all that space. All I need to do is go down into there, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to drill a real simple hole in this piece of wood right here. just kind of give it that action right there. There we go. Dump the stuff out. Let's come back without falling over. So let's come back and check with that screw in here. Just get the drill fuzz off. Let me see if that screw, okay, that's a good fit. It's not too loose, but it does fit in there nicely. I should have enough left over to get a nice tight fit on there, and I do. So that's kind of how it'll look when it's done. Well, sort of. All right, so, unscrew it. That was kind of, did a little too tightly there. So what I need to do now is find the center of this box, this drawer. A couple ways I could do that. One easy way is to just figure out, okay, 3.13 inches from side to side here, and then our 3.12, so that would be 1.56 would be a half, right? So I could find 1.56 on here, because I don't want to draw on these per se. And I want to get something that I can, this is where I need to have my little pokey thing, and I haven't made them yet. But I want to get a ruler to come across here, and then I'll find my, so basically 1.5 inches, but go from corner to corner. So 1.5 inches. Let me just find that spot on here. Okay. So 1.5, and it was right here. So I just want to get that marked. There we go. And I'm just putting a tiny little mark in there. I don't know if you can even see it. There's a little teeny mark that I just put in there. Now this one should be about the same, but knowing the way I build crap, it's different because that's just how I am. So well, actually, no, I was pretty close there. I'm impressed with myself. Try not to be too impressed with myself though. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my 1.56 inches there on the caliper. And then we're going to line this up from corner to corner. And then my 1.56. Yeah, because the 1.56 turns out to be just about a 1/16 over a inch and a half. So there's an inch, there's a half, there's about a 1/16 right there. All right, and that looks good. And I'm just gonna get this one zeroed in there so I can find that hole later, or that little mark later when I go back. And I can get my marking knife here, put it in that mark, and just make a larger, there we go. Just need to make a little bit of a larger mark in there to fit that drill bit into. So just like that. Doesn't have to be much, but now you can see there's that little mark right there. So now if I can take these over to the table, to the drill press, and we can lower the table most likely. Don't need all that verticality. So let me find out where we need to set this. Get a nice drill going here, way down here. Okay. Get it lined up. So, all right. I think that's good. Turn it on and go ahead and drill it out. Okay, there's number one. I'm gonna get this lined up instead of just going straight at it, because I do want it to be in the exact same spot that it needs to be. Right there. All right. All right. So we've got our two little holes in these. Now we can go ahead and put our hardware in. So come back over here. Let's put the hardware on these. So this one, we've already got the bit here. If I get that in there nicely, I can. Try not to mess up the finish on the front. But now one thing I probably could use, all right, hang on just 1 second while I grab I've got a small screwdriver here. I just need a small Phillips head to tighten that with. And all I can find are large ones. Oh, here's a tiny one. Okay. So I gotta get inside that drawer. So I need something kind of small. But I just happen to have a little stubby one right here. So there's a stubby. So let me just get the little stubby one in here. Just like that. And then I can actually use that to tighten it up. It's easier. Well, easier is a relative term. But, nice. So there's one. You can see that looks really, that aged bronze looks really good. Here's the original. So this is an original one right here. This is the one that came out of the machine originally. This is mine. Nice and shiny and looking pretty. So that's good. I need to find those same screw. There's a lot of screws here. I didn't want to buy this many, but honestly, I mean, it was the pack that they had, and it was the ones that I wanted. It's like, well, I guess I'll be getting 10 of these things. And then it came, like I said, with 3 different size screws to go with each one. So I've got 30 screws sitting here. But anyway, now if I can just get my big giant thumbs to work and open one of these up and put this other drawer pull on here. Whoop. And there we go. Nice. One thing I didn't do, let me just pop on the computer here real quick. Oh, Mary Jo's watching. Yes, this is Mary Jo's table. So yes, Mary Jo, I am putting your table together. It is done. She was talking about the price of the hand plane, and she's like, if you're on Facebook, you can see the comments. But anyway, she's like, have you seen what we pay for sewing machines? And it's like, yeah, but to me, that's a difference. See, you're paying for a collectible. I mean, that's a collector's item, right? That's not. I mean, yeah, you can still use it, but you know, when you get to the point where you're paying like $5 grand for a sewing machine, that's a museum piece collector's item that you're paying for. You're not paying for a shop tool. so yeah, everybody, like I said, everybody has their parts where they're like, you know, I'll pay it. Some people are like, there's no way I'll pay it. All right, this is the top for that machine right here. And this, I didn't do anything to this except I cleaned it off. It was kind of grungy and dirty, and it still has some dark spots underneath where the machine would sit. It sits right here. But I did clean this as much as possible. I didn't want to strip it down because it still kind of has all the really cool luster. It has a tape measure on here. I didn't want to mess that up. And but this was, this was not like a super high quality piece of furniture. You can just tell from the edges. I can see scalloping on here. They didn't even like sand this smooth. These are rough on the edges here. This was made, I was looking on here, And it's like, this is made from 5 different boards. It's like, why? And they're not even equally spaced. It's weird. It's like, here's 1, 2, so you've got one board this wide, then 2, 3, 4, and then a little one here on the end, 5. Well, I don't even know why that would be a thing. But apparently they just had a lot of leftover wood and said, hey, let's make this little thing. So what I'm going to do with this is take these drawers. Now these are, like I said, these are the slides that the drawers will fit onto. And on the previous, on these older ones here, when you look at these were actually fitted on here and they were just nailed in here. And so I think that's probably what I'm going to do with these is I will nail them in so that they will fit underneath. And the biggest thing is figuring out where I want them to be spaced. Do they need to be right in the front or set back just a little bit? And I think that's a good spot right there. They don't need to be right in the front, but you do want them to be accessible. So I think, and then the other problem is that there's a little bit of warpage with this because when they glued these boards together, they didn't alternate the way the grain, like if you look at the end grain, you know, it kind of does a loop thing. Well, typically when you put multiple boards together, you alternate so one's going up this way and one's going down this way, and then they create opposing forces so that you don't get big buckles in your wood. But they didn't do that with this one, so it has a little bit of a bend to it. It's not a perfectly flat piece of wood. But I think that is where I will go here. And I'm just going to make a tiny little mark here with a pencil. Oh, the other thing is, well, here's actually very important. So let me grab one of these legs because I don't want these to be spaced over to the point where I can't get the legs on because the legs go in a very specific place. They have a slot in the top. So let me show you that really quick. So in the top, there's a slot in here. This is how, a weird thing too. There's slots in here. And that's how the legs are actually affixed to this table. They're actually just glued in, which is what I'll be doing. But here is one of the legs, right? And it will fit in the slot like that. So this has to really be in a position where it's not going to interfere with that leg. So I need to make sure that I put it in a spot where it's going to still be like kind of near the front. If this is the front. The other thing is, let me make sure I've got the front here. Okay, so this is the front. That's good to know. So the front is actually closer to me. So like if I put this leg in here, I want this to be closer to the front here, but not touching that. Yeah, that doesn't give me a lot of wiggle room there. So right about there, I'm thinking, is where it needs to be. That looks good. And then what I can do is just put a pencil mark on there with a pencil that works. So let me figure out, I can find my marks on here. Is this all the way back? Yep. So I'm going to mark the back edge of the drawer holder, slide, whatever you want to call it. And that tells me where to put this. It should be right there, which should give me enough. Yep. Okay, so that's in a good spot. Now, probably what I will do with this is I will grab my new tool, maybe, if I know where I put my new tool. I got a new tool, and I got to find my new tool. Where did I put that thing? Come on, really? I just had it out here the other day. And I'm just going to put a couple of pins in there. I don't want to nail into this thing. You got to be kidding me. Where in the world did I put that? I mean, my shop's not that big. There's really no place to hide things in here. My battery charger's up there. Okay, well, I'm feeling like dumb as a box of rocks now, because It's a big yellow tool. It's not like it's, you know, something that you can hide. Okay, there we go. There it is. It's a big tool. Look at that. How am I going to hide this? Anyway, big tool. We're going to take this. We're going to put a couple of brads in here, and I think that will work. I'm going to turn this around though. So what I will do is I'll put the drawers in after dropping. I'm going to put the drawers in, and then I'm going to assemble the legs, assemble the bottom of the leg, and that way I can make sure that, now this should be the back right here. Let me just make sure. So this is the back. There's my line. And these will get glued in. So before I glue these in, I'll put the leg spacers in, which is the foot pedal. I'll put that on, and then that will hold it secure. And then we'll put some glue in here, and we'll just let it glue up. All right, this needs to go right here, except I need to make sure I do it the right way. I need to make sure that that drawer is going to fit when I do this. Lots of things in the way here. So, okay. So if I do it like this, I'm actually, now I can keep it straight. Okay. If I do it halfway, we're good. All right, I'm going to actually go ahead and put a pin in here. Maybe. Oh, really? You can't be dead already. I just used it the other day. All right, well, we're going to charge this up a little bit. So I'm going to get these others ones marked. Maybe we can assemble the thing on the legs while this is getting a quick charge. I only need to pop in two of these nails on each side, so I don't need a whole lot of juice. I'm kind of surprised that actually died that quick though. That's a little disturbing because it had a full charge and it supposedly does like 100 plus nail pops. So yeah, that's a little disturbing. But anywho, let's go ahead and get all this stuff ready here. Now, the one thing I'm going to do before I put this together is I'm going to grab a paper towel, and I'm going to grab some sewing machine oil. And here is a little hint, a little tip passed on by my wife and others who are into very old, and it doesn't have to just be sewing machines. It could be anything that's kind of from that mid 1800s, whatever. If it's made out of like cast iron or whatever, if it has any decals or whatever it is, do not use industrial cleaners to clean those machines or whatever they are. Do not. It will ruin the finish. If you've ever seen an antique sewing machine, like, well, here, I'll show you. You can see this one has decals, right? There's decals on here. Let me, hang on a second. Let me set this aside for a second. So if you look at the decals on here, right, you can see that some of these decals are kind of golden, but some of them are silvered. That silver is not good. These should be like gold, and some of them are green and other colors. They turn silver. If you use commercial cleaners on these things, which no, I didn't do that myself, it came that way. But if you use commercial cleaners on these machines, on any of these old machines, you're going to damage any finish that's on them. So really the best way to do it is to get yourself some sewing machine oil. I don't know how this stuff, there it goes, which is really basically just light machine oil. And light machine oil does wonders to clean off grime and gunk and add a nice polish to the way they look. So I'm just going to do that to these things before I reassemble, because I hadn't cleaned it. And And MJ just dropped this off like right after she had picked it up. It kind of rode around in her car for a little bit until she got it dropped off, but she hadn't had a chance to clean it either. So before I assemble this thing, and while it's easier to get to, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a rub down. Like I said, you just put some oil on a towel, and I hate these bottles though. These Zoom bottles are terrible. But anyway, sewing machine oil, it's a light machine oil, and it is the best way to clean like old machines, like even like guns, any type of old machinery, like if you buy an old press or something like that, like a printing press or tools or whatever. If you want to preserve the finish, hit it up with machine oil first. Now, especially because a lot of these things have like Bakelite finishes on them and stuff like that, and you will not damage a Bakelite finish with that. Oh my gosh. It's like, what in the world is that? I don't know what they're doing out there. Leaf blower time again. Good Josh almighty. It is yard cleaning Friday. That is for sure. Anyway, I'm just trying to get in all the nooks and crannies here and clean this out as best I can so that it makes it easier once it's assembled. Now this piece doesn't have to go on. This is the wheel, and I can put this on after the fact. But look how pretty that looks. Isn't that pretty? Nice and black. A little close up. Look how pretty that is now. And all I did was clean it with some oil, and it was gross before. Now it's pretty. So yeah, that's your. And look at all the gunk that came off of there. So sewing machine oil, Singer still makes it's. You can buy Singer oil. This is Zoom, the Zoom spout oiler. You can get this stuff at Walmart, maybe sometimes Joann's Fabrics, craft stores. So any sewing place where they have, you know, where they sell like usually sewing machine needles and things like that. You can buy this stuff. So let me go ahead and clean. I hate how this thing works. I'm going to clean this one off right here. This is the foot pedal, and I have not touched that. Now the bottom of this is shinier than the top. The top did not get the finish didn't last as well on the top, but it's been used, right? It's had little feet on there. No telling how many little kids use this thing. So I'm still getting some dirt and stuff off of there. And like I said, the whole point of this is just to kind of get the grist and grime and gunk off of it while it's not attached, because it's easier to get all around here and do it by hand than it is to wait until after the fact. And the other thing is I can oil the real rod here, because it needs to spin freely. And it's captured. I did not remove this all the way. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could take this off. It has little set screws on the collars right here, but since this is spaced and sized exactly where it was, I didn't want to mess with that. So I didn't take those off of there, but I would just drop a little bit of oil right in the edge here. But it's kind of hard to clean some of these areas. Now I need to be careful. I don't want to get any oil in areas where I'm going to be gluing or anything, because that would be bad. But yeah, this definitely needed to have a little bit of cleaning done to it. And like I said, I'd much rather do that while it's able to be twisted around in my hands like this. Oh, that was the washer. That's okay. I've got more. Yeah. So, and the other day, I think I mentioned this, I went to Home Depot and found a replacement nuts and washers for these things. So there's a new washer right there. And that will allow me to evenly space this on the legs. Okay, I mean, it's not brilliant, but it is much better. The only thing I'm going to do is, while it's kind of upright like this, is maybe drop a little oil into here. I hate these oiling things. They don't, it's like it wants to, there we go. Going to drop a little oil into this side and just work it around. And then do the same thing on the other side. And yeah, my wife like bathes machines in this stuff. It really does wonders. I mean, even like freeing up like stuck screws and parts. I mean, you just soak it in oil and then let it sit for a while. And there are other methods also that they use for freeing up screws. But I mean, honestly, sometimes all it takes is just putting a little oil in there and let it sit for a while and it'll penetrate. But I mean, this stuff was made to basically keep these machines functioning and smooth running. So kind of hard to go wrong with that. But anyway, I don't have the machine here. She has the machine. I didn't like, no, please take the machine with you. I don't want it here. It'll just get dirty and messy. But all right, I got one more spot in here I want to clean. Right inside here. It's a little gunky in there. This is where the pitman, which is a rod. So the foot pedal goes down below, a rod goes in here and attaches to that wheel that we just cleaned. And so as you push down, that rod pulls down on the wheel and then it'll loop around and come back up. And it's just this motion like this. It just kind of does that, although not as winding like that. All right, these are clean. We can assemble these, I think. If I move this aside, let me set this aside for a moment. And we'll come back to this once I actually have a charge for my brad nailer. But we can bring these over. And I can stand this up like this. So there's two sides. This side just has a hole in the bottom right here. There's just a hole right here. Go back this way. So there's a hole in this side, which just gets one of these affixed to it like this. I'm going to put a washer in there though, I believe, just to kind of help with things. So I'll put a washer in here next to that screw. And then we can put it on here like this. Nice. And then I will get another washer and another screw, or another nut, screw. That is basically just a long threaded rod. It's threaded at the ends. And we can move that inner nut to correct for the spacing. So we'll put a washer on this side, and then we will get a nut, capture that. So we're just putting that nut on the outside right here. Like that, and then we can like loosen this and tighten the inner one, or we can move the inner one in and move this over a little bit. So we've got a little bit of room here to kind of square these legs up. The other leg over here, a second, okay. So here is the other leg right here. This one has two holes in it. So there's a hole at the bottom like the one we just saw, and then there's also this hole at the top. This hole accommodates the flywheel. So we're going to take this, and I'm going to move this screw in, much like the other one, about the same distance. I actually need a washer on there, just like we did the last one. And then we need we need the leg. So we'll take the leg, stick that in here, like that. And another washer and another nut. And then that would be basically the assembly of the lower leg section there. And then hopefully once this is all tightened up and then glued to the top, it will achieve some rigidity to the legs. So I'm just going to tighten this up by hand right now. But there you go. So there is the leg section right there. That looks really sweet. This, like I said, this is your treadle. So it moves nice and smoothly right there. And your wheel goes here. It actually has a large screw bolt right here. This one fits onto the pitman. This one fits into the table. And it has a smooth shoulder. The smooth shoulder goes through the hole here. No, I'm sorry. The smooth shoulder goes through this hole right here. And this screw goes on the outside, and then the pitman goes on the inside, so the whole thing kind of runs like this. So you can see it there. And yeah. I don't necessarily need to attach this just yet because it kind of will throw the whole thing off, but that's pretty stable. Like I said, once you put the tabletop on it, it should be very stable. But let's set this aside for just a moment. And I wonder if I have just enough juice to pop in a couple of brads, because all I need is 4 brads in here. I don't need a lot. Just need 4 of them. And yeah, just need 4 brads in there. So there's my line. Here's my spot right here. Get that lined up straight. I'm going to pop 1, pop 2. That should be all it requires. Let me go over here and grab this and see if that was enough juice to make this happen. I really hate to have to pull my old one out. I'd be very disappointed if I had to do that. I have plenty of brads in here. Okay, I've got a little light on there. That's a good thing. All right, I'm going to get this lined up again, right in the right spot. Right on the back edge of that. I'm going to make sure this is square. I put one here. Yes. Put one here. There we go. That's all that took. Hooray, hurrah. And then drawer, hopefully, slides in like that. Oh, you gotta love it. All right. Now, to make sure I get the other one in the right spot, I am going to take this and I'm going to put this, so the machine is on, if you see, whoop, kind of whirly twirly here. So I need to make sure this is turned the right way because I want the correct legs lined up with the where the sewing machine goes. So there's holes in the table where the leather belt will go through the table and then interact with the machine, which means you want the wheel and the pitman on this side. So I need to make sure that those are in the right spot. And you need to make sure that this is in the right place. Yeah, this thing is so warped. So hopefully, hopefully this all works out well. But anyway, it's good enough for me to actually put this in like we did the other one. Let me just make sure I get that spacing right on here. And that's why I wanted to put this in. And we're going to get the spacing right. And then I can make a mark on this one. So this one is about that far in. And right up near there. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to make a mark right here so I can see the edge. I'm going to draw a line on the back of this little piece of wood. Just make a mark there. Slide this off. And now I can line this one up. Put a nail in. Like I said, I'm just using brad nails, so if I really needed to, I could pop this thing off, but they go in about a ½ inch. So I'm pretty happy with, I pre-did the depth on these, so I'm just gonna put one right here. That's nice. Make sure it's nice and square. Put one right here. And go right here. All right. Yay! So happy. Look at that. Like a dream. Like a dream. Now, let's see if I can get this holding it all still. Flip it and give you a better view. like that. There we go. So here's the front. We got a drawer here. We got a drawer here. And that is pretty nice. I like that. Yeah, dang, that looks good. That looks really good. And then here's kind of, so you can get a side view here so you can see what there's the legs right there. So it's really just, I think it turned out really pretty. Looks really nice. And like I said, the drawers, they're just, I've got it so that the handles are just a hair behind the front here. They're just a hair behind, but those drawer pulls are awesome. This thing is super cute. Now I need to, oh, I think that was a little bit of oil on my hand there. And it's okay if you get oil on the wood. Wood loves oil. So I'm going to just rub that right in. It'll just look awesome. There we go. Now really what I can do is I can do two things. I can glue this in. Gluing is going to be an issue. I'm going to have to leave the whole thing upside down. And I can also put the pitman in. So the pitman rod is right here. So here's the pitman rod. It's just a rectangular long piece of wood is all it is. Some of them are fancier, they're round and they're sculpted, and so depending on the machine. For this machine, not so much. Now there's two different size holes on here as well. This one, let me go to this camera and see if you can see it. There's a pin that actually captures this inside of here. So inside of this portion of it is a pin that I'm holding up right now. So if I get this lined up here, I could push that pin back in and get it to be in here. Now, I might have to, in fact, I probably will have to get a pair of pliers because that pin's pretty tight. So let me get a pair of pliers here that I can apply some better pressure than I can get with my thumbs. Thumbs are not going to do it this time. So let me walk over here and see if I can find in my box of stuff a better pair of pliers to use, which I'm having trouble in my box of stuff finding a better pair of pliers. I have just a general tool caddy over here, which is what I'm looking in right now. I used to have just a pair of pliers in here, but things get used and borrowed and not put back, and you know how it is. You know how it is. All right, I found a pair of sort of pliers. So let's see if this works a little bit. If I can get this pushed in here, just a hair. All right, plan two. There we go. When all else fails, go with, now it's just a little far, go with the hammer, but I can take this, now I can get this back in a little bit. All right. Try to do this. This is not easy to do. All right. I have to get it on there. There we go. There we go. The pitman is now in. So like I said, this attaches like this, and it will actually work like this. I guess we can put the wheel on. We can do the whole structure here. Why not? Why not? All right. So we take this off. Move out of your way. I'm going to take this off. And it has two big flat washers. I'm just going to take this oily rag here and just clean this off a little bit, and that'll help it kind of spin and move. There's also a little spot here where you can add a drop of oil to it, which actually I might just do that right now. See if I can get the oil to come up here. There's a little oil, like that, and just get that spinning. And all we're doing is we're just lubricating this free spinning area right there. And clean this off a little bit. Okay, so like I said, there's two washers. It's an inside and an outside washer. And this one goes on here. This fits through. I don't know if you can see that, probably not. So this fits through, turn it a little bit for you. This fits through here. And I've got the fit on there is pretty good. I've got it so that it's pretty darn tight on there. Our outside washer, our very large, very dirty screw here. Just clean this up just a little bit here. There we go. You know, even the nuts need to look nice, right? That's good. All right, I'm gonna put this on here. Problem you get with some of these old machines is that companies made their own screws sometimes. So you would not have a standard, like an SAE standard size, or even a metric size. Metric didn't even exist for the most part back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So finding stuff that worked, not great. Look at that. Ooh, that is slick. Yes, it is. All right, and then I have one last item that goes on here, which is this bolt. Comes out right here. That fits in here. There's a little shoulder for the pitman that rides on there. I need to get this in the right spot. Do not want this cross-threaded. That would be bad. So let me get this. There it goes. Definitely don't want that cross-threaded. And then I can get let me just get a flat screwdriver and make sure I get that in there exactly the way it's supposed to go. Now, this is, like I said, it's not finished because I still, pardon my quick face flash there. It's not finished because I still have to turn this around or turn it upside down and glue this top to the legs. But that's the last thing I'm gonna do, and I'm just gonna put some glue in there, spread it around, and then I'm just gonna leave it set upside down so the glue can set. There is the pitman installed on the wheel. And then sometimes these are like there you go. And that is how a treadle machine works. Just like that. Isn't that awesome? Just like that. All right, MJ, what do you think? Looks pretty cool, right? Not bad. Not bad at all. Actually, you have to get the wheel going the right direction though, and I don't know which direction that is for this machine, but anyway, it's very smooth. It's very quiet. So that is a win. Definitely a win. All right, the last thing for this to be finished is to put some glue in it. So let's go ahead and do that, and then I can set this aside and do some other stuff, and we will call this one done. Well, with the exception of the glue drying, but I can't really do anything about that. I just let the glue do its thing. So let me put these little knobs. These are awesome little knobs too. I love these things. I might have to do make it like a jewelry box or something, put one of these knobs on there, the little drawer pulls, because they turned out well. And then, oh, hang on. Let's be nice and neat and orderly today, so that things don't get misplaced. I'm gonna just take my drill bit out, put it back in the case, and stick that in the drawer. All right, a little order, not a bad thing. This looks nice. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. It looks pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. Like I said, it's, if you saw what it looked like to start with, these poor legs were it was just terrible what happened to them over time. I mean, obviously this thing was loved and used, and somebody, tried to keep it together and working because they put their own replaced pieces of wood in here and other such things. And this is the one that sort of survived. This is the one leg that sort of survived. And I mean, you can see it's very, I tried to keep the exact same style and measurements and everything so that it would be a reproduction. But this thing has, there's like hot glue. There are nails that are kind of just bent over and whacked into this thing because I guess, you know, this thing kind of, the glue came loose from the tenons on here. There's glue sticking out over here. And this is the good one. The bad one had another piece of wood that didn't even match the other ones. And then that had broken and was wrapped with electrical tape, and yeah, it didn't look that great. And then one of the drawers had busted, and so anyway, this, I think it looks aged and old and weathered, but it still maintains all those character. There's a little bit of, I put some rubbing on the front here to just make it look like it was older and used. So yeah, very happy with that. I'm going to take that over here. Don't really have a camera set up over here, I don't think, but I'm going to take this whole thing over here and I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to hold these in and then I'm going to flip it. Maybe, thank goodness I have very long arms because I want to keep this together for a moment like that. And then I can go ahead and grab some glue and we can make that happen. I'm going to take this off real quick. This is my ADD thing going on here. It's like, oh wait, I gotta do this. Well, wait, let me do that. There we go. Just get some charge on there. I don't need it again today, I don't think. And hopefully next time I'll remember where I put this. It's just it's a temporary home, but it's living underneath my flip cart there. So if I can't find it again, just remind me, would you? Oh, you are very welcome, MJ. It was, this was fun. It was kind of a very different thing for me, so I enjoyed this. It was good. But let me put some glue in here real quick. I'm gonna pop these legs off like this, so that that's where they go. I guess I could take the drawers out. So you don't really need to have the drawers in there. I'm really happy with the way the drawers were some of the hardest things to do. Well, I take that back. It's been a while since I've done them, but the tenons on these things were thin and small, so they were a little challenging too. I don't do a lot of tenon work, but you can't argue with it. I mean, when it works, it works. And it was also the original construction was mortise and tenon, and I kind of, like I said, I wanted to stay true to the original construction of these. So if I had something like a Festool domino, I probably would have used it, to be honest. But not having a Festool domino, I just went with what I had. I am going to get a glue brush here, just so I can spread this stuff around. Of course, I have to take the old glue off the glue brush. You got to love these silicone brushes and stuff. And you just let the glue dry on here and it just comes off in big chunks. Now this one's getting old, so every now and then it just pulls one of my little silicone brush things off. But I mean, these things are like $5 or something like that, so I need to order a couple more. But yeah, it's all clean now, so I can just go ahead and put some glue on here. Normally I would just squirt some in there, but I really want to make sure that it's spread around inside this gap here. And here, let me, there we go. That's a little bit, at least you can sort of see what I'm doing over here. So I'm taking the glue and I'm going to put it in the gap here. And I think this thing has probably been glued more than once too. There was all kinds of crusty stuff. I cleaned this out as best I could, just kind of with some sandpaper. And hopefully this glue will take, because that's the thing about re-gluing things. It's hard to re-glue things. But I'm going to try really hard right here. So I'm going to put my glue in here, and then I'm going to spread it around. Get the silicone brushes in here, and just really spread this glue all around the sides and everything, just to kind of make sure that I'm getting, and I can wipe off what I don't get in here. But yeah, and it's fairly deep, so I'm just trying to get it spread around in that slot as much as I physically can. And there we go. Let me grab grab a different thing and just clean off the stuff that got on the finish here. And then I will do another one here. Put some more glue on the other side. I can run it down the edge here. Let it drip down the side a little bit. That's not a bad idea, actually. Kind of let it drip down the side of the slot, and that way I can make sure I get some coverage on the side there. That's pretty good. And then turn it around, try to get some on the other side. There we go. Oh, that's working out. All right. Get a little bit more in there. Like I said, I'm not really sure. Hopefully this will set up well. If it doesn't, I might have to try cleaning these out again and I don't know, epoxy, or maybe do some discrete brad nails right through the top or something, you know, if all else fails. Hopefully nothing else fails. Hopefully this works just fine and dandy. I mean, the big thing is this isn't made to be moved around either. It's supposed to be still. Get some glue down in there. Come on, what the heck? There we go. Ugh. Well, that was not good. Big glob of glue right there. But yeah, it's not supposed to be moved around a lot, but you still want it to, you know, if you want to move it from one spot to the other, you want it to be able to be moved. Can I get this all the way down there? Spread that around. It's not easily. My brush just barely makes it down to the bottom of the slot. But I think we've got this spread around pretty good. Pretty good. Just make sure I get it off the top here. All right, I think we're good for glue. So I'm just going to take this, pick this up, set these in here. And make sure that it's seated in here as well as possible. Like I said, this thing is not, it's so bent. But there we go. That's it. It's in. And then when I get completely finished, what I'll do is maybe adjust, I'll kind of measure these things, and maybe I can adjust, like I can pull this one out a little bit. And I can adjust how far out these need to be, if these need to be a little bit further out. But you can do that because they're just a capture nut on each side, so you can sort of play with the spacing this way, and if they're kind of tilting, you can get them to line up. But that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. I don't want to have to put a brad. If I had to put a brad nail on the top, I don't think it'd be the end of the world to get these to stay, because the brad nails are really super tiny and you almost wouldn't even notice it. You could even take like a little furniture marker and just touch it and color the top, and you wouldn't even notice it because they set just a hair below the surface of the table. Anyway, that's good. Well, I can't leave that there because I need to use this part of the table. But what I can do is put the drawers back on and set it to the side. Perhaps I can set this on, gotta be it carefully, I don't want it moving around. I didn't really think this out, which is how I do most things. But I can set it right here for now, and that'll be nice and safe. I don't need to use the bandsaw anytime soon. So, like I said, always a search for flat surfaces. So, what do we got going on now? All right, let me just wipe this off, and we can move to the. God, it's 12:30 already. Good grief! Just time flies when you're putting together tiny sewing machine tables. All right, we'll let that dry, then that's easily peeled off. But I do need to get a new one because I'm losing all of my little bristles there. I have another one too. So I have a couple of these, but like I said, over time, as you let them harden and let the glue and pull the glue, giant glue blocks off of here. It has a tendency to take a bristle or two with it sometimes. Ouch. Well, as it gets older, they don't last forever. Oh, this is really on there. Wow. So this one doesn't want to come off. There we go. It is kind of fun though to pull off the big giant pieces of glue, and they just looks like a little honeycomb. Kind of check it out. Looks like a little honeycomb in there. That's the glue, and then you've got basically kind of fresh, clean bristles to use. So yeah, these are. I mean, you can get these tons of places. Woodworking stores, Woodcraft has them. You can get them at. You can't get them at Walmart, I don't think, but you can get them online. You can get them at Walmart or at Amazon and stuff, of course, obviously. Alrighty. Ow, I broke a nail. Pity. What's next? Well, we need to get to these bases over here. So I'm going to get rid of this one over here and get rid of them. I'm just going to move it aside. Once again, looking for a place to put things. All right, you're going over here for now, buddy. Because it needs to be lacquered. It's not completely finished. I need to lacquer that up. And I need to do the roundovers on all these bases. Now, I already have the bit in here. Let me close up my glue, and let me just clean the glue top off. If I don't do these things as I think of them, they'll never get done. So, all right, I need to take this cover off, and I already have the bit installed that I'm going to use. And so if we come over to the camera that's closed, we need to turn that one on. How'd that get closed? I just used it a minute ago. Anyway, this camera will wake up in just a second, and it's pointing at the location where we need it to be. Uverio. Don't worry, all that stuff will go away. I say that. There it goes. All right. Let me make it so you can actually see what I'm doing here. There we go. So I'm going to take this cover off, and then we can raise our bit. I installed this bit the other day. I was changing bits anyway, so I went ahead and installed this one. And then I can find the appropriate size for this one. I don't know if can I use the small one for this? No, it's just a tiny bit. I mean, just a, I think it would touch. It's so close. I really am so tempted to use the 3/4, but to save the life of my plate here, which I can't get out now, to save the life of my plate, hello? Did I tighten this? Oh, it had gotten locked in. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and just go to the next size up and go to, what is this? I don't even know what size this is. This is a 1 inch. So I'm going to go to the 1 inch plate, just like I said, to save the trouble of my bit running into that. And it dulls the bit, and it kind of tears up the surface. So let me put the blank one away. All right, so we've done this before, and the process that we use is to find a piece of wood that is squared on the edge, like this, just a nice little flat block of wood that has a nice sharp edge here, and then we have to find where that edge drops past, where we lower that, that curve down to the point where that curve just slides underneath that board when we slide over here. So that generally the way I do that is I just kind of put pressure on it as I lower the bit really slowly. And then as I get right to that sweet spot, it'll just slide up there, like right there. It'll just slide up the curve. And that should be the right spot. Should be. So let me look at the, all kinds of things happening. Oh, DMX the rapper passed away. That's sad. It is. You know, sad when anybody passes away. It's just a sad thing. Prince Philip passed away as well today, or last night, or early this morning, or sometime. Bless his soul. 99 years old. That dude, that my son said, he looks like he died 5 years ago. He did look rough. Last time I saw a photo of him, he did not look like he was enjoying those last couple of years. But who am I to say? Maybe he did. Maybe he had a ball those last couple of years. You know, my thought is, you know what? Anytime you wake up and you see blue instead of brown, you're doing okay. You see blue skies instead of dirt, it's a good day. Even if you see gray skies, it's a good day. But anyway, anytime you wake up and see blue instead of brown, just remember that. It is a good freaking day. Okay, I do want to get a different piece of wood. This one's a little small because I like to make a test cut. That's a little small. This one is a little larger because I don't want to have a piece of wood where I have to have my hands so close to that thing. But that feels about right. I just like to make a small cut just to make sure that I'm getting just that correct round over. I am going to bring my hose over here, perhaps, and I just kind of have it resting in the area. This does not make a lot of chips, which is kind of nice. I like it too. But I do want to have it out of the way. Now what it does do is makes a lot of noise because my router, any router, is just loud. So we are going to be quiet with the router. Well, not really. I'm going to be quiet because I'm going to put my ears on. But okay, I've got my ears. I've got the bit set. Got the hose here. Got the power for that. We are plugged in, so we're good to go. Oh, the other thing I'm going to do is the last bit I used on here was very large bit. It's the one I did the 1-inch roundover. So I'm going to turn the speed up on the router because the smaller the bit, the faster the speed you can run it at. So I will do that as well. Okay, that looks beautiful. Let me come over here and give you a little bit of a close-up so you can see what I'm looking at here. So there is the roundover on this thing, and it's really small. It's a 1/8 inch roundover. It does a really nice job on the corners. It just makes everything feel really good and smooth. Now, if you have end grain areas, like this is the end of the board, so the grain's running this way, this is considered end grain, right? If you have end grain, it can feel a tiny bit rough. It's much smoother on the long grain portions, but a little bit of sandpaper on the edges. And that's why I save my finish sanding, my 220, for right at the end, because that way I'm not changing the roundover, I'm just smoothing it out. But here's what I was talking about. If you can, I don't know if you can see this, but it creates, let me put it a little closer, it creates this really nice shadow line along the bottom of whatever you're working on. So kind of hard to see because I got lights all over the place, but there's a really nice defined shadow right at the bottom of this. And I'm going to zoom it in for you here really quick. So if you look at that, see how there's just a nice separation of that. There's a nice separation runs all the way around. If I have a flat bottom, which this isn't perfectly flat, but it's not as pretty. It's not as nice as having that. That creates a shadow line at the bottom, and it just looks a lot better. Let me readjust this camera now. But yeah, so I like having that shadow line on there for the bottom. Plus, like I said, this just feels so much better than this. You flip it over, this is sharp. This is just really smooth and feels great. So that's what we're going to do to these bases. We're going to make them feel great. I said this one, it's a little different. I'm not gonna do the interior of this one. I'm gonna do the exterior, and I'll do the exterior on the bottom as well. So let's give that a shot here. Okay, so that one, this is one of the more standard ones, and you can see that when I ran this around, hang on a second, I'll show you. So when I ran this around, I did, the underside right here, so this is all smooth. Right here, I did the top right here, and actually I need to hit this side again really quick. But I also did around the interior, and it does this kind of really cool thing at the corners. I don't know if you can see it, but it does this kind of cool thing at the corner because the little wheel that tracks the inside and keeps this perfectly spaced, it actually hits this thing, so it pulls it away. So I get these nice little edges right here on each corner. So that looks nice to me. I do need to hit this one side right here just a little bit. It didn't quite, and sometimes depending on the angle I run this through, I have to kind of hit it again. This one just a little bit, but this otherwise just feels really smooth and buttery, and it's just such a nice little touch. So if you're ever doing stuff, just get yourself an 1/8 inch. You can do this with a hand router too, a little one of those little tiny hand routers. It's just faster doing it on the table, but I would really advise if you don't have one of these little 1/8 inch, man, they feel so great. They feel really nice. And the nice thing is that they're really hard to mess up with these things. I'm going to say they're bulletproof. Almost. I mean, they really are. It takes such a teeny tiny bite. You're not going to get things like it's not going to catch and throw wood out of your hand. It's such a small bite that it's such a pleasure to use one of these things. So anyway, if you can, try adding one of those to one of your projects. Like if you're doing a box or something, just add that really tiny roundover and see how much of a difference it makes. All right. All righty. So that is all of the routes done on here. And really the last thing I need to do is last thing, but the next step as we come to an end to these things is to put some finish on them. But we got to do that last sanding, that last 220, just kind of make sure everything's smooth sanding, right? Because it can make all the difference in the world. I'm going to just lower this down and put putting my other cover on here. And that way it keeps stuff from falling down in there. And it just gives me a flat surface right here to play with. And I think, make sure it's down enough. There we go. There we go. That's locked in. Take that out. Put it there. Now we got a nice flat surface to play with. Oop, didn't mean to shake the camera. And I can now take all of these and set them over here because we can get these set up for that last sanding. And then it's on to stain. Yay. I say yay, but is it really a yay? If I had somebody to do my staining and stuff, it would be much better for me. I'm pretty sure. Not sure why my little thing quit there. Anyway, that's that's a whole stack of boxes right there, and they are all just about ready to go. And like I said, I typically will do a 320 at the end. And 220, 320, 220. And I'm going to go grab a fresh 220. Now, sometimes I like to actually use an older 220 because it's a little bit less harsh of a cut on the surface. But because I'm just doing a nice, easy, over-the-top sand on these things, I'm going to grab a fresh one. And you can tell the difference just from the two. I mean, this feels so coarse compared to this one, which has been used quite a bit. So you can tell the difference, but it is 220. So the other thing you can do to make these things last longer is clean them out. Hang on a second. So I don't know if you can see, I ran the vacuum across one half of that. So look at this half as opposed to this half. I took all the dust out. This feels smoother than this side because this is caked with dust. This has been cleaned out. So if you do that every now and then to your pads, just clean out the dust on them, you'll get a lot more life out of them. A lot more life out of these pads. And I did not write 220 on here, which is odd. I usually do. So that will be that one, and I will write it on this one. I don't know if you didn't catch it last time. I take a Sharpie and write the grit on top large, because after I've used these for a while, they get dusty, dirty, and you can't read the markings anymore on the bottom, and then I don't know which grit is which, because like I said, some of them get to feeling finer than they are, and I might mistake a 220 for a 320 or whatever. So I always do that, and that kind of makes it easier to define what is what. I'm gonna put that right in the middle, roll it up. So I love these little mouse pad things. They're fantastic. I think I got that from like Peachtree Woodworking. They're usually one of the sponsors of the woodworking shows, which travel to, I don't know, a dozen different locations around the country. They did not do that this year. I think they tried a virtual show, which is just not the same, right? A virtual show just, you know, when it's woodworking, and let's face it, most of the people go there to see stuff and buy stuff. So there's classes that go along, but the majority of people are there to look at tools and buy stuff and everything. It's you just want to see cool things. So I appreciate the classes, and they try to do classes online. But some of my tools, my favorite tools, I bought at the woodworking show. All right, let me get this up here. Now, one thing I actually am going to do is, I did this the other day, and it helps tremendously, is move my dust filtration fan. I'm going to set it up on the side of my, my table saw over there with the air pushing like right towards it, so it's really close. So a lot of the dust and such that I'm going to pull off of this thing is just going to kick, anything that's airborne is going to kick right over to my dust filtration. And that will hopefully keep it in the filter and out of my lungs. So let me pull that over here. It's on the floor down here. And we're just going to set it up top. And like I said, I'm going to set it with the filter part facing the area where I'm working. I'm just going to turn that on. And there we go. So now I have this filtration pulling, and you can just see it in the edge of the frame here. It's right here. So you can see I've got the filter housing on this side, and it's just pulling all this air that I'm going to be using from the sander this direction. And the other thing I'm going to do is grab this little guy. These are, I mean, I would not call this this is not COVID safe mask. This is just a dust mask. Don't buy these for COVID protection, because that is not what they are made for. But it does keep the dust particulate out of your mouth and your lungs. So I will pop one of these on. And then there's my fresh 220 right here. I'm not gonna make you watch me do all this. I'm gonna do one of these. I'm gonna do my wife's base here. But I'll do this. And all I'm going to do is give a couple of strokes like that. Now this thing is pulling a lot of dust. I mean, there's there is a lot of dust coming off. It's a 220 and I'm pulling a lot of dust off of here. So you don't want to be too aggressive. Like I said, all I'm doing is getting dust marks off of here. I don't want to be aggressive. I'll take a brush and I'll push all of this dust. Now, usually what I'll do is I'll take the vacuum and do it like this. I have a brush that I can put on here. I just don't find it as effective as using like this stiff brush right here. Just really gets the dust out of the pores. And the difference between before and after I use that brush is amazing. It feels like glass. It's glass smooth now. But if I don't do that, it still feels rough because all that dust is sitting in the pores. So really kind of important. And if you can look, this was the brand new one and it's already kind of covered. Like I said, I'm not trying to change anything here. All I'm doing is smoothing. Especially on these corners, the smoother that end grain is, the less it's going to suck up stain, and it's going to look not as, if you don't do that, the corners will tend to look dark because they'll just suck up more. So I'm going to turn this on though, apologize for that, but I really need to get all this dust out of here. You know, the one thing that's different about this box than the others, if you remember, is that I didn't run the interior on the router table because there's no wall here for it to go across. So all I'm going to do with this one is break the edge and I'm going to find the lid so I know where that edge goes to. I just want to break the edge along here really easily. And what I might do is that 220 that I took off of there, I'm just going to take that and fold it over and just run it along here and get a nice broken edge. And when I say break the edge, you're taking you're rounding, slightly rounding that 90-degree corner. That's all you're doing. I'm going to run that all the way to here. So it's not quite as extreme as that 1/8 inch roundover that we do, but it is enough to make this not feel unpleasant to your hands. And remember, that's kind of like one of my main goals here, is to make these feel nice in the hand. And just doing this, like I said, it's not dramatic. It doesn't look as cool as the other ones, but in the end, it's going to be just as effective because it's, in essence, doing the same thing, in that it's just providing some relief from that nice sharp corner. And that's all I have to do for that. It took there's a lot of dust on here. That was kind of clean. So let me grab now here's the brush for my vacuum. I can use this. I just don't find it as effective. Yeah, and that's not nearly as dramatic. Like I said, that's not nearly as dramatic as the one that I get from that little 1/8 inch. And by dramatic, I mean just a very small amount. But this is just a really nice, even roundover. This, it doesn't feel sharp anymore. And that's kind of the main goal. All right, what time we got here? It's a little after 1. Basically all I have to do now is rinse and repeat this process. I'm going to take every one of these every one of these bases, and grab my 220 block wherever it went to, and run that around the outside surfaces and get all of these. Yeah, that is my 220. I'm going to run around the outside surfaces, get those one last smooth pass, and make sure that I get all these corners done. The other thing that I think might be able to find one here. So when you're doing these roundovers, yeah, here's one. So when you're doing the roundover, you can get a little bit of a burn. Where was it? Right here. This one has one. A little bit of a burn on here. So you can hopefully see there's a little black mark on the corner there. And that's just where the bit, if I pause in that spot, which is usually on the corners because it's in grain and I'm trying to make sure I get all the way around that corner. So there is a tendency sometimes to get a little bit of a burn. This one's pretty good. It just has that one little spot. There's a tiny little spot up here, but the 220 takes care of that little, you just kind of round it and get that little burn mark out of there. 220 will do that. You just need to check for any burning. And you want to keep the bit moving as you're going because there is a tendency to get burned if you leave it in one spot too long. So anywho, that's where I'm going to leave this on, let's see, today's Friday, and I'm not sure how much time I'm going to get in the shop this weekend. Some of it's weather dependent. I want to get out on my bike a little bit and do a couple of other things. But I might start, and I've got a couple of other projects I really need to finish. I want to get that knockdown table stained and get that done. And so that might be something that I look at doing. And I actually might break the sprayer out to do the lacquer on that one because it's just big planks. So that's a lot easier. For all the other stuff, just in case you were wondering, this is what I use right here. For most of my woodwork is this Watco lacquer. It's a crystal clear lacquer. I prefer, it comes in a lot of different services. There's a flat, there's a matte, there's a semi-gloss, and a gloss. The semi-gloss is what I like. Says 30 minutes dry to the touch. I'm going to tell you it's more like 15, not 30. I recoat within 15 minutes. So if I do one, now this says spray light coats, allow 2 hours to, and then recoat. You don't need to allow, I don't know why they say 2 hours. You can, if your weather is average, I want to say 65 to 75, 85 degrees. If you're in that temperature range, 15 minutes and this stuff will be dry to the touch and you can put another coat on. The great thing about lacquer is that it has solvents in there and the solvents melt the top layer into the layer underneath it. So you're stacking your layers, but they dissolve into each other, which means you don't need to sand in between your layers, which is one great thing. The reason you usually need to sand for like if you're doing poly is you have to let it dry and then you have to scuff the surface in order to allow an adhesion between those two coats. You don't need to do that with this stuff. It melts into itself. It has, like I said, it has, I don't know what's in here, but methyl ethyl ketone and acetone, nitrocellulose and toluene. So it's got all kinds of things. But anyway, the big thing is that it melts into the layer down below it and it creates a really nice surface. The only time I sand is right before I do my final coat. Now, if you want to, you can use like a scuff pad. I don't have a scuff pad sitting here, but I used to have a scuff pad. Yeah, here we go. So this is like a 3M kind of it's like just an abrasive pad. If you want to like knock the dust nits and stuff off, if you're a little bit dusty when you do it, you can see some dust nits. You can lightly pass a scuff pad over top of it and then spray again. It's really, unless you've got, like I said, dust nits and things on there, it's really not necessary. I don't think so, until you get to that last coat. So 4 or 5, probably 5 is my recommended coats on there. That gives you a thick enough coating of lacquer that you can then break out something like a 400. I would actually advise maybe an 800 grit. And you pass that 800 grit over. Now I wipe the dust off, but you don't have to, because remember, the solvents are going to dissolve that dust into it. But I just get one of these tack cloths like this and just clean the dust off from that 800 grit. You do one more coat of lacquer on there and it is like glass. It is so smooth. And that's why I love using lacquer. It's just, to me, lacquer and oils, my 2 favorite finishes. The oil's even better because I only usually have to do 2 coats of oil and then I'm done. But lacquer, usually 5 or 6 coats, and that gives you a nice, I won't say durable. It's better than just plain wood. It's cleanable. You can wax it. You can do other things to it, but it's a really nice surface. I don't do glossy, because I think we've touched on that. I don't do glossy. Glossy, I just don't like the look of it. I don't like shiny, plasticky looking things. I like stuff that looks like wood. And so, like I look over there at the table that I made, and it looks like wood, but it's not bare wood. It just has this beautiful just luster to it, and that's kind of what I really like. I think there might be a luster as well. Luster and semi-gloss, either of those, they go fine. I have cheated, and I have only like maybe had like 1 can of semi-gloss and had a can of like flat or satin or whatever. So I did my base coats with the flat stuff and then did my finish coats with the semi-gloss. It works. So if you can't find, semi-gloss is kind of hard to find. Everybody likes flat, and I'm not sure why. Flat and glossy, those are the 2 biggies. So this stuff's a little harder to find. I get it at Walmart. You can order this stuff online. You can find it at Home Depot. Usually, if you go to one of those places, you're gonna pay $10 a can. If you can find it at Walmart, it's less than $8 a can. So it's a pretty big savings, because I usually buy like 5 or 6 cans at a time. If I spray lacquer, then I get a big can of lacquer and use that and mix it. I thin it out and then with lacquer thinner and then spray it. But if I'm buying rattle cans, I usually look for the Watco. By the way, this stuff is made by Rust-Oleum. So it is what it is. Okay, so I've got my work to do this weekend. I'm gonna do some finish sanding. Well, I'm gonna probably do that today. Do some finish sanding on all of these, and then I will clean them off I'll use some naphtha to clean them, dust them, and then I don't know if I will start staining. I might stain all of them but one. Maybe we can stain one together on Monday. If you all want to come check that out on Monday, we can do some staining together. And it's not too much of a process. It's time consuming. So I'd rather not burden you with watching that when we can do other things. And I have some other projects too to move on to. So that's kind of exciting for me. But yeah, let's go ahead and call this a wrap for the weekend. Thank you all if you stopped in. MJ, glad I got your thing. It'll be ready for pickup in a day or so. The glue should be dry by then. And what else? Yeah, that's it. Have a great rest of your Friday. Be safe out there. Look out for each other. Love each other. You know, don't make each other sick. Wear your mask while you're dusting and while you're just out in public. All right. Okay. That's it. Have a great weekend. See you back here on Monday. By the way, if you could hit the like button, the follow button, the subscribe button for whatever platform you're on, that would be awesome. I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday at 11.